Welcome to Freelance Sucks. Here we discuss the dark side of freelancing about which nobody usually talks out loud. In this show, we speak with experienced freelancers, and I'm sure listening to their stories helps you prepare for freelancers' challenges. My name is Yuri. I'm a community builder at Code Control and 9am.works, and my guest is Christine Vallaure, an experienced UX UI design freelancer who had built a UX UI design plus Figma learning platform, Moon Learning IO, with a German head and Spanish heart. So, welcome, Christine.
Hello.
So, German head and Spanish heart, what does it mean for a freelancer?
Well, I was always thinking if I should put it that way because there's a lot of stereotyping as well, which you have to be a bit careful with. But yeah, so I'm German, and the Spanish is by choice. I live in Spain, and so I think the German part is like this by stereotype, the structured part, the very logic part, and this is how we do it. And the Spanish part is why I live here. And I really love it. I love the culture. I love the people. It's just things are just solved in the moment, and it really helped me to combine those two. And I think was what I try to do in Moon Learning as well, to keep it structured, to keep it to the point, but to also have a bit of this lightness that's also in the courses, to keep it real, to say that if there's a problem, you can fix it. If you have a question, you can ask it, and to just enjoy it in the end and have a good time.
Yeah, just by talking to you, I can say that you are a very light person, very shiny person. So I totally understand what you're talking about. And for you, I know that you are working on your platform full time for now, but you had 10 plus years of experience of being a freelancer. So what was the most challenging part of being a freelancer for you?
I think the most challenging part was to combine the things. Like, as I said, I have the structured part, which I think is what people really liked when they worked with me, that it was very reliable and really there. But then obviously as a freelancer, you can't plan. So sometimes you have 5 projects at once, and then sometimes you have nothing. So you have to be very flexible. And so I did as much as I could. So for example, take your holidays when there's nothing going on, but you also have to find the balance of not completely dedicating your life to this, no? And whenever someone calls you there, and when they don't, that's your moment off. Sometimes you also need to find your own balance. And I also found it difficult. If you're in a job, usually a project arises, but you're there every day, and you're going to solve it with your team. If you're a freelancer, you're going to have the same problems within a project because there just will be issues, and but you have to solve them, and you're on the clock. So that solving this problem, everybody's gonna be aware of how they're gonna book you another day. How do you do that? Some stuff you obviously have to maybe give a little bit from your budget, but then also ask. So I found it very difficult or very challenging rather, to sort of find that balance as well, which is why for me it was always really important to just work with the right teams, and to where I could have a really open conversation, and also say, look, I'm not going to be able to do this in that time. But you need a bit of trust as well in a freelancing team as well to do that.
And how do you build this trust?
For me, it was funny because in the beginning, that was the thing that didn't work for me. Because you start freelancing, and I started quite young, and you take on every project. You're asked, and you feel like you have to take on every project. So a lot of stuff, I went into the sort of pre-discussions, and I would have sort of a feeling of, I'm not sure if it fits, but you sort of be like, it works, and the money is fine, and this is fine, I can do this. And whenever that happens, when I went into a project with my head and not my heart as well, things just didn't work out. It was very few times. I think it was 3-4 times that I can remember that I was really this is just not working. Some of them we could solve really well, and actually we built that trust in that team, and then worked again together. And sometimes you're also going to say, we're just not fit. It's just not gonna work.
Yeah, I totally understand you. And what was the most time-consuming thing you dealt with as a freelancer?
I think that as well, like when it doesn't work, because when you're in it, but I have to say, when I say that, it's very personal as well. This is, I'm a designer and I work with the teams. And when you're a designer also, like you don't have, like, it's not like you're having a fixed outcome and that's it. Like, you need to be in touch with that team. You need to get along. You need to be able to reach out and to feel comfortable. So for me, that was the time consuming, was always when, for me, the key to everything was always when it didn't match. And so I did that a few years and it stressed me a lot. And then a friend of mine gave me a book. I tried to remember the name. I think it was called Logo Design Love. I don't remember the author, but it's a very famous book. And he writes about his journey, and he has this chapter, and he said it's called Red Flags, I think, something like that. And he talks about when you go into a meeting, allow yourself, when you're a designer, to feel whether this is right for you and whether you match with that team or you don't match. And it was like weird. It was like this revelation to me. It was like, oh, I don't have to be this ultra professional. I can be this person, which it really was like this. I really thought I have to be this professional and everything has to be super professional. And in this book, and he's doing very well. He's big in the community and stuff. And he was like, no, you're just a person and you can just voice that you don't think you're fit or this doesn't work. And so I was like, great, I'm going to do this. And this was really for me the pivot point where I said no to projects. And when I said no, there was space for new projects. It's obviously a scary place in the beginning, because totally. You have the financial pressure in the beginning, but it works. It doesn't mean that you have to say to no to everything that you don't think you're going to be best friends. Going to be a fun about a middle ground. But in the end, I then found some really nice teams, and then I also noticed these teams kept on booking me over and over, the same agencies, the same companies, the same people, and I knew them and I trusted them, and I'm in contact with them till today, and that's ultimately gonna give you less stress, and it's also going to give you a financial stability, because there is a certain trust and you get a certain routine working with those teams.
Do you remember how did you feel first time you said no to a project?
Super guilty. Super guilty. I was like, I have this, I always just remember the German saying. So you have this thing like Hochmut kommt vor dem Fall, which would be translated to, like, if you're being too arrogant, it's the moment where you're gonna fall. That it's this like, oh my God, I'm not appreciating the work I'm giving, which again is a bit of a generation thing. I started working when there wasn't so much work. You were happy if you got an internship. So I always had this like sort of in my mind, like if someone gives you work, you have to take it. And so I felt super guilty. But then 2 weeks, there was maybe a gap of a week where I didn't have anything, and then someone else asked, and it worked well.
And you thought about most time-consuming thing, and what is the most nerve-consuming thing?
Again, I think it depends a lot on how you work and how you are. So for me, it was making sure that in the hours I had, I was delivering the quality. So sometimes I would like sort of just put in many more hours than I originally wanted to, or that was agreed, not because anybody forced me, but because you're building your reputation every day that you're freelancing. So you always have this thing that you really want to deliver. So it was a bit difficult for me to sort of switch off and find a balance.
And how did you build your reputation? Because you just thought about this. So what does it, at first, what does reputation of freelancer means for you?
So again, in the beginning, I just thought I have to be super professional. I have to work with everybody and everything has to be great. I can tell you it's a road that's not going to lead you very far. And so then in the end, it was more that I focused on the companies that I actually liked, the products, the teams, and that within those companies, I think it happens by itself that you're just a pleasant person to work with. And with that, I also don't mean that you just have to agree to everything, but that you just like, that you come with the right attitude, that you, in a team, I also think you can bring a dynamic to a team, to a fixed team, which I think I had a really nice team in the end, that they kept on booking me for projects. And it was also nice of them that I came with experiences from other groups and from other things that happened. And so I think the reputation is something that it just builds it by yourself. If you're in the right environment with the right people working on the things that are right for you, and you're doing a good job, then you can also do a mistake here and there, but it depends how you communicate it. And then people will just say like, we enjoyed working with her. We enjoyed how she solved it with us. And I think that's in the end your reputation.
Got it. So, Christine, if your friend wanted to become a freelancer, what are top 3 things you'd advise them to consider before doing it?
The most difficult thing for every designer, you have to build a portfolio. It's very designers and portfolios, it's like a never-ending story. So yeah, you have to put a portfolio. You just have to build your, I don't know, Webflow, whatever, just put your work out there. And yes, there was always this thing where they say it doesn't have to be perfect and stuff. Well, you should still try to make it as perfect as you can, because it's your your face that everybody sees out there. Yeah. So that, I would say, is your main thing, and it's going to be your main time, and you have to do a portfolio. It can be very short, just make sure it's good. And the other thing is just reach out to people. Like sometimes it feels a bit scary to reaching out, and it's also something that doesn't come to me easily, but people are actually quite happy to talk to you. And to meet you. And I also would say, like, try to go to things like meetups and talks, and if you have it in your budget already, maybe conferences, because there you can get an idea, and you can also get an idea of how the dynamic of these different companies and what fits with you. You know, are you the person that wants to be in the startup, which is a great environment, but it's also a very intense environment, or do you rather go to something a little more established that might be a little slower? So, but it might be sort of more into the detail. So try to see talks and meet those people to find out what's right for you.
How did you reach out to people?
I just send random emails, really. It's just like, well, like, I really like your stuff. Can I just come around and have a coffee? And you'd be surprised about how many people invite you if you have a portfolio online. That sort of makes them feel they're not wasting their time. And then I usually just had a conversation. And again, in that conversation, usually you notice whether you're a fit or not. And sometimes I talk to them and they were like, I like what you're doing, but it's not what we're looking for. But I have a friend that you should meet. And that's usually, it was like this. So you got to do that first step, and it feels weird and it feels awkward. And yes, you're the person asking for favors, but it's also, you know, think of yourself being in a job and you're there all the time, and someone comes around and say, I like your stuff, I'm a junior designer, can you have a coffee? It's quite nice, you know. It's not like, ooh, like, it's quite nice to get some fresh air and help out. Usually people are open to do that.
Yeah, in nowadays world, people are usually open. And
now it's a Zoom call, that's a problem. I had coffees, which is much
Zoom coffee. Nicer. Yeah, like let's have a cup of coffee. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nicer if you manage in person. If you say, hey, I'm in the neighborhood, can I come around?
Yeah.
So,
you know, Christine, I wish to have the sky as the limit, but time is the limit. So the final question: if you were starting freelancing today, what is one thing you would have done differently?
One thing differently, I think I would have been a little braver still in the reaching out. And I think I would have gone, and also, like, you can write the CEOs of companies. They're still people, which also is something that took me a long time to understand. And they're usually very passionate still. Not everyone, but most companies, they're usually quite passionate about what they're doing, especially, or the founders. They might not be the ones that have time for you directly, but they will be if they like what you're doing, and they usually like that you're being proactive and liking their stuff. They'll point you in the right direction. So yeah, I think just be a little braver.
Yeah, it's an amazing tip. You know, like, I'm just thinking I should have done that too. So Christine, once again, thank you so much for sharing your challenges and for sharing something I learned a lot from. And it's been such a pleasure to have this conversation with you.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for listening. If you like the show, hit the like button or 5 stars and share it with your friend. That's it. We're done. See you in the next episode.